Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So if you watched my last video, you seen when I swapped in a Reman VP. It was kind of a failure, to be honest. The truck was down huge on power, even worse than before. So now we're just gonna get back to the fun stuff. So for today's video, we're finally gonna put one of the big pumps in. We're gonna put in the Scheid Stage 2 pump, and we're gonna throw in a set of Monster Mike 6x13 injectors. There's always been a question of what injectors are in this truck, so we're gonna find out. So you guys have seen me in my last video when I changed the VP, kind of what to do for that. So I'm not gonna film that part. You guys already know what to do. Basically, our extra steps for this are just gonna be pulling the valve cover off. It's a series of 10 mils that run down here, and then popping the connector tubes out. But once I have the valve cover off, the intake horn off and whatnot, then we'll get into that. If you've ever taken a valve cover off a second gen before, especially one with high miles, not this one was pretty low K, but the cab mounts do sink over time. Makes it a huge pain to get the valve cover off and the back two bolts out. I'll show you a little trade secret. So what I do, get a floor jack. On my truck, I'm using a wheel chock. You know, it's like hard rubber, that way it doesn't damage anything. And then it was very easy for me to get the back bolt out, and it'll be very easy for me to pull the valve cover. So if you guys have ever seen under the valve cover of a 24 valve, this is what it looks like. Your shorter intake valves, your longer exhaust valves, the injector hold downs are right there, bridges. So basically, if we loosen off the 10 mil that holds the exhaust rockers on, you can just turn it out of the way or completely pop it off. You can access the 8 mils. This one in the back is slotted. This one here is a straight through hole, so you have to completely take this one out. This one you can just back off a little bit, but yeah, we'll do that, and then we have to pull the lines off and pop the connector tubes out. I usually use a flathead screwdriver, depending if they're really stuck in there or not. There is some different tools for getting them out, but yeah, let's do that. All right, guys, I did tell you a little fib. Work on too many common rails, apparently. You can leave the exhaust rocker on, because like I did mention, that bolt there can stay, so then it just slides out that way. So I got one off, got all the connector tubes out. Now we'll pull the injectors out, and hopefully there's some stamping on so we can see what they are. So I think I mentioned in my last video how I find it kind of refreshing to work on this truck, just because I pretty much only ever work on common rails now. But one cool trick I do remember for getting the injectors out is you can thread a valve cover bolt into the top, and then you can pry off of it like an injector bolt. One unrelated thing that I'm doing is I'm pulling off the intake plenum. There is an updated metal gasket that I'm going to put in there. I just want to make sure that there's no boost leaks or anything. That's been in there for a few years now. I just have a valve cover bolt here. Thread it right into the top of the injector. And I don't have a great pry bar here. I'm just at home, so I'm just going to use a wrench. Put the end of the wrench in there and just pop that up. All right, guys, you can see the intake plenum back on. That Scheid Stage 2 pump is in there. Now we're gonna pop some injectors in. And I put a poll up on some of the Facebook groups, and you guys voted. We're gonna try the 084 lines, and then put it on the dyno, see what kind of power it makes, and then put the stock lines on and compare it. So these are my 6x13 Monster Mike injectors. Drilled matching connector tubes from him. Basically all we're gonna do is put a little lube, a little white grease on these O-rings, that way they slide in. And then sometimes on VP injectors, maybe 12Ls are the same, if the copper crush ring is a little loose, just put a dab of grease on there to hold it in place. Or if I had some new ones here, I would replace them. So this is what I like to use. You guys can use a few different products, whatever works. And kind of the reverse, I thread this into the top of the injector instead of pulling it out. I use it to push it in. Obviously you want to make sure The delivery hole lines up with the feed tube, so facing the intake side. Another thing, the whole injector debacle with this truck, not knowing what injectors were in it. I talked to Lenny at DDP. We looked at the numbers, looked at the manufacturer date, looked at the hole, the amount of holes, and basically they are the injectors that we thought was originally in the truck, around a 200 horsepower injector. So that does leave the question about why this truck is down on power. All right guys, we got the injectors in. Next thing we're just gonna do is put these hold downs on. I believe the torque spec is like around like 89 inch-pounds or something for these. But yeah, let's get after it. We're almost there. All right guys, injectors are in. Next we're gonna put the feed tubes in. It's just gonna be the same idea, just a little bit of lube on the O-rings, push them in, and then we'll use our little jack trick, lift up the cab a little bit, valve cover back on, and yeah, then it's ready to put the lines on. All right guys, got her all together now. Just actually gonna leave the valve cover off in case we need to tighten any of the lines. These are kind of like not a huge pain in the ass, but a little bit more annoying to put on than the stock lines, just because I didn't want to separate them. I didn't want to get anything mixed up, but we'll pull that rag out of the intake, grab the keys, and try and fire her up. Just like when I did the injection pump video, we're just gonna crack a couple of lines. We'll bump the key, let the fast run, turn it over a bit, kind of repeat the process until it's ready to fire. Guys, I was about to end the video there, but then I shut the truck off and I could hear a bit of maybe call it like a whooshing sound or an air rushing sound, and I knew what it was right away. It's my own fault. You know, I should have changed those questionable washers, those copper washers on the end of the injectors. So basically what's happening is combustion is getting past those. It's pressurizing the return, and that sound I was hearing is probably the vent on the tank. Basically walked back to the truck, I popped the cap off, and yeah, it was for sure getting combustion in there. So I got some new copper crush washers. I will rip the injectors back out and change them. Honestly, this is something that I think is good to leave in the video. You know, I was just rushed, excited, and knew better, should have changed them. But if you guys are getting some pressure in your fuel tank, check your injector crush wash. Yeah, anyway, so hopefully weather dependent, I will drive this thing this weekend over to the shop, throw it on the dyno, and God willing, we better finally make some power in this truck. If you like the videos, remember like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.